morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales, wherever in the world you are today. So with it being January 11th, there's a lot of interesting things in the world going on. Cryptocurrencies is pretty much not one of those. The FAA decided that no planes can fly domestically or internationally this morning for some reason, but they hit the reboot button and Windows Millennial Edition has circled back up, and planes are flying back up. There's a lot of things going on in the macro environment, I will say, but for the most part, when I really look at the Web3 asset class, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain overall, it's definitely a bear, but it's not a winter. There's way too much innovation. There's way too much, interest in the space. And I think that we've finally hit that critical mass on blockchain as a viable technology being really here to stay. Cryptocurrencies, again, there's the word is out on where these things are going to come down regulatory wise, but that's not really always, that's US based look. That's not always European and other things else. So essentially the culmination of this is no one really knows where this asset class is going, but from a technology standpoint and from a building standpoint, it is furiously being innovated in. And so my guest today is Toby, again, super excited to have you, sir. Really storied background and a lot of entrepreneurial just experiences, I think is the easiest way to say it, that you've had over the years. But let's go ahead and let you kind of tell your story about how you got here today.
Sure, Jay, again, super excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate all the work that you and the team do around yWhales, just bringing interesting news and projects and things to the forefront. So one, thank you. Honored to be here today. Yeah, so a little of my background, I'm a builder. I love building products. I love building teams. I have been kind of a CEO and entrepreneur for 20 years now. Prior to that, I was a software engineer, right? So I have a fairly technical background. Way back in the day was Accenture. Ended up joining a startup down in Houston, both owned product and engineering. Came back to Kansas City in '03. And this is actually my third startup from scratch. So really have a glutton for punishment. I love the really early stage super concept. And if there were a thread across the companies, it really is, how do you use existing behaviors and technology platforms to unlock new use cases? So my first company that I did, we put technology on forklifts. Right. And what we realize is humans are really, really good at driving unconstrained, dynamic environments. They can see everything, react really fast, but they're terrible about data collection. Right. So asking a user to scan the pallet, scan the location, scan the pallet, scan the door that you're going out of, right? They're actually really, really bad at. So being able to say, hey, let's use technology to do all the data collection, and let the drivers just drive. Right. And so that kind of capability allowed us to do some really cool route optimization, inventory tracking, kind of this ability to, again, let users do the things that they're good at, let technology do the things they're good at. Sold that to a private equity, did a roll-ups, got some great M&A experience, kind of rolled out of that, ended up coming across a professor that was at a university looking at using a biometrics. And they're looking at the blood vessels and the whites of your eyes as a biometric. We're like, that's kind of creepy, but kind of cool. And they thought, yeah, this immigration at airports and military. And I'm like, those are terrible ideas. Like, those are so hard to do a startup. Like, why don't we do passwords on smartphones? But that feels like a really powerful use case. And as we were kind of looking at different ideas, and like, hey, if we could just look at my phone and that user experience of simply an unlocked application, unlock the phone, like that would be powerful. I'm like, yeah, but like no one's doing biometrics on smartphones. Right. In fact, the number one question and challenge I got from so many people were like, hey, if this is such a good idea, how come Apple and Google aren't doing it? Like, why aren't they like, I don't know, but they should. So we started iVerify was the name of the company in Q1 of 2012. Apple came out with Touch ID in 2013, came with Apple Pay in 2014, and just kind of the right place, right time. So we ended up having Wells Fargo and Citigroup and RSA. We had 60 banks using eye-based authentication biometrics to open bank apps on device. Wow. Right? Super cool, super powerful at the time when that was crazy cutting edge. Right? And just this kind of, both of those companies were like, hey, this is just the convenience of letting drivers just drive, letting users just look at your phone and have that open. We were able to sell iVerify to Alibaba, or Ant Group, it's kind of the financial services group of Alibaba, back in 2016. And I ran biometrics and identity for them globally, right? So got just a fascinating, catbird seat to what does e-commerce look like at scale? What does identity look like at scale? Alibaba has built just a fascinating kind of ecosystem of logistics and commerce and financial services and cloud and entertainment. And so we get to kind of, I was like this little speedboat and try this armada. It was armada just, charging through kind of a lot of Southeast Asia. But again, experience things both at scale, how to think about technology as platforms. But then again, everything they did is, we were serving predominantly people who hadn't ever used technology before. They hadn't really shopped online. They never had wallets. They never had, really, anything like usernames and passwords weren't a thing. So when you're going into India, Indonesia, and Southeast Asia, again, the convenience thing really just hammered really, really deep into me. While I was there, they asked me to join their investments team, right? And like my number one focus was blockchain, right? So I get in 2018 and 19. I got to go around with Jack Ma's calling card and talked to a lot of really interesting blockchain companies and technologies and where it was at. And I remember thinking at the time, this is a fascinating technology, but I'm struggling seeing the business in this. Like, okay, crypto is interesting. At the time, man, it was mainly just ledgers.
Yeah.
Like, okay, ledgers are okay, but we've got pretty good databases. Like, where is the big unlock? And it really wasn't until like 2000, basically last year, so 20 and 21, when, my opinion, when NFTs and smart contracts really started to come out. And I'm like, that's fascinating. I can prove ownership of something purely digital, right? And be able to have again kind of this distributed trust, and kind of the building in an open environment, right? So I've always thought open source has been interesting. Open source has always struggled because it's never had a business. Like, what's the business model behind open source? Well, to a large degree, Web3 and blockchain gives a business model to open source
Yeah.
technologies, right? With tokenomics and working. And so as I began to really dive in and look at a bunch of different ideas and use cases around, okay, where do NFTs really impact people's life? Where does everyday people have everyday experiences that get better because of Web3? Right. So my background, I'm not a trader, so building an exchange really wasn't a big thing. Most of my applications has been kind of B2B, but not core infrastructure layer. So going and building a core layer one just wasn't all that interesting, nor my skill set. But I looked at a bunch of different ideas and applications and really ended up kind of through that, again, getting pretty deep into, again, smart contracts, NFTs, wallets, and kind of that consumer experience, which eventually led to Redeem.
There you go. So real quick, let's take a half step back, because to me, your some of the experiences you talk about is absolutely using existing technologies, but in a way that nobody has quite seen yet. And it seems like you kind of are going after that human nature. These aren't, smart contracts talking to other smart contracts, talking to AI bots. That's just a total circle in a dark warehouse. I mean, you're actually trying to solve human related problems with technology that has industrial or institutional, level solutions. And so I love the thought about, again, I agree with you. I've been in cryptocurrencies and blockchain for a long time, and it really wasn't that interesting. Even when Ethereum first came out, I'm like, okay, like, cool. I'm
Right.
sure it's going to get used, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be into this thing, but we need more depth. We need, more layers on top of this. And while I still believe we have a long way to go, there's a crap ton of use cases that are viable today and able to be implemented safely, securely, and cost effectively.
No,
So,
totally agree.
yeah. So let's hear the Redeem. I'm dying to hear.
Sure. So the concept of Redeem, I think it's a couple of we think about my first company and the second company that kind of using this existing infrastructure. And I come out of the identity space, right? So a lot of background in biometrics and identity. And I think one of the ahas that we had was like, we actually already have a phenomenal global unique numbering system. It's called our phone numbers, right? Every one of our phone numbers truly global unique. You know yours off the top of your head. You know every one of your friends' phone numbers. They know yours. You already have an app on your phone used to communicate, and carriers have spent billions of dollars securing the network such that there is exactly one device in the world with my phone number on it that can connect to their network, right? So they've done, it's called SIM verification, right? So when my device tries to connect to the network, the carrier says, great, who are you? Are you allowed on my network? What is your plan? All that's done. Well, carriers have now opened that up as an API, as another layer of authentication. And so we've already got a global unique identification system. It's already in use, extremely familiar. Like the vast majority of communication I do is via text messaging or WhatsApp.
Yep.
right? And that's actually global. That's not a US thing. That really is a global thing. It's like, what if we took that phone number and transformed it into a Web3 wallet,
Hmm.
right? So if my phone number is now my wallet, and simply by possession of my phone, that effectively is my password. Because there's only one device in the world that can claim to have this phone number right now. And so if I want to access my wallet, open my wallet, engage with something in a purely digital context, like that is a fascinating underpinning. And so, kind of the one kind of we call the broad layer, what we've done at Redeem again is transform this phone number into a Web3 wallet. And kind of what goes into that wallet can really be a wide host of things, right? So the two use cases we're initially focusing on is rewards and loyalty, right? So
Yep.
how do we help brands better connect with consumers? Because it's one-to-one correlation. You can be dynamic, it can be personalized. So instead of old school promo codes and coupons, we kind of call them dots. These dots can be dynamic, they can be personalized, they can be date bound, they can be dynamic in price, they can be dynamic time, they can be geofenced, all these really cool business logic tied around old school coupons. But then when I go to my Shopify website, the e-commerce website, I just put my phone number instead of the promo code as I'm checking out. Or if I'm going to, I'm at a point of sale, give them my phone number, which I'm already comfortable doing, right? Take the same concept and now take it to ticketing, right? So ticketing as NFT has been a great use case. It's always one that I've really loved.
Yeah.
It's unique, it's specific, but the usability of it's still really hard. So why not just have your phone number be this Web3 wallet, right? So when I show up at the gate, I can scan the QR code at the gate, and guess what? When I scan that QR code, it hits my phone. Well, guess what? My phone has a phone number. My phone number is connected to a wallet, which has the ticket. I simply respond with a red or green, and do I get
Yep.
access or not? Right. So the simplicity from a consumer standpoint of if I have my phone, I have my Web3 wallet, and any action I take on my phone effectively is an action taking in the Web3 world. But to the event coordinator, to the brand, you get the trust and the creativity and the provenance of all this really cool, complex kind of blockchain and smart contracts and kind of distributed all these really cool things. But to consumer, it's just my phone number, right? So can it take even the event example that we're going to really love the ticketing use case of not only to get me into the building, but maybe it's VIP access. I get an area of access that I want to be able to get into because I have a ticket. Once again, simply scan the QR code and my phone will tell the attendant or simply respond back with the QR code, which we can scan and then open access. But now post event, the other cool thing is kind of it's obvious once you say it,
Yep.
but as you see, is like this unique identifier is also a method of communication for the brand, right? So now I want to drop you because you went to the Taylor Swift concert. You're one of the lucky few that got to the
Why
Taylor
not? Let's
Swift
go.
concert. Then a brand wants to say, "Hey, know that you love that. Hey, we're having an after party, and you can invite you can come because you have a ticket, and you can invite two more people." Right? Like, great. Well, I'm going to now text two people. I say, hey, great, share this. What I'm doing is actually sending them an NFT. That's a one-time use NFT. They click on that link. They get onboarded into the Redeem platform, and all they have to do is show their phone number or kind of stick on a QR code as they're showing up. Or a brand can drop you, hey Jay, glad you're Taylor Swift. Here's $20 off our website the next time you come. All you have to do is enter your phone number. So when you're on the Shopify website, for brand.com's website, you type your phone number. Like, oh, well, here's Jay's number. Here's his wallet. Here's all the rewards. And then behind the scenes, we have a widget that you can create via the coupon API of Shopify, a one-time use coupon for the user. And it looks like I applied a promo code. That's the
Yep.
experience, again, that I know, that I understand. And so kind of this linkage of this phone number just has me absolutely fascinated.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love this concept. So let's break this down into a couple different parts to talk about. So let's start with the overall wider view, which is the centralization, meaning that I get to centralize, access to all these different platforms and things. So that's the I think to me the biggest benefit of Web3
Mm-hmm.
is I refer to it as the modular internet,
Yep.
and saying I can actually own my identity. So instead
Mm-hmm.
of my Southwest points having to live in a Southwest account and my McDonald's, McPoints or whatever the hell they call them, living in the McDonald's app and
Right.
everywhere else, bring them to me. So I know that they exist, and again, with smart contracts and smart kind of cryptocurrencies, you can still make that choice to decide, do you want to allow these to be traded? Like I can send them to someone
Yep.
else, or are they locked to just me and my wallet? So for people that are already going like, well, if they get traded, then that creates, legal problems. that's
Right.
easily done and solved. So just that core concept of the fact that I have one place to look and see all the different loyalty rewards or receipts or
Yep.
everything else is absolutely coming, and that's why this is such an intriguing product. So we'll kind of jump back over to you on that side of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's things like, I think the low hanging fruit are things like rewards, loyalty, and tickets, but it's certificates, it's credentials, it's any kind of digital collectible, it's anything that might be soul bound, might not be, right? So I do think there's a lot of things that brands want to give us, like a VIP pass. Like, no, that's me. Like, I'm a VIP because I'm a VIP customer. You may not be. I can't give you my VIP status, right?
Yeah,
But this ability that brands can now trust, there's an infrastructure that I can give you something that's purely digital, you get an NFT token that's now sits in your phone number wallet that you basically, I can be confident that only you can use, access, or redeem in kind of whatever fashion that may be, whether that be digitally or in person, right? But again, to a consumer, it's like, oh, it's just my phone number,
yeah.
right? So one of the things globally that has been really encouraging and somewhat of an aha, because as you say, it seems obvious. So globally, everywhere that we've talked to, and we've talked to folks in Africa and Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia and India and South America, Europe, kind of across LATAM, like people get phone numbers pretty early. And once they get them, they don't change,
No,
right? They actually keep them for a very, very long time, right?
since
And
since
it
the
is.
since the mid '90s here.
It is. Like the
Yeah.
only reason we found people legitimately change numbers is when they move countries, right? And we have a way to help kind of port them in that scenario. But for the most part, this is a great way for me to be able to, again, keep track of all of the things that brands. And then you also mentioned something earlier on that I think is it's kind of one of those unobvious things that is very. I think it's a huge unlock. When building with Web3, you're building in the open. You're building outside the walls,
Yep.
right? So if you could do everything inside the silo, you're right. You should just do it inside the silo. You don't need Web3 if you're simply going to build inside your own ecosystem. But when you can start letting users own their own data, let users have some of this stuff, other brands, other companies can build on top of that composability. So I love this word composability, the modularity of what Web3 brings, because I can do things, and people are building new experiences in the metaverse or in Web3, the other things that I have no idea who they are. But because I'm building a Web3 and I'm using a Web3 wallet and I can hold generic NFTs, I can unlock all sorts of amazing, kind of surprise and delight use cases because I'm building out in the open.
And the thing that, again, is so intriguing about this concept of loyalty points, reward points, or just, kind of proof of attendance, anything you're doing, being in NFTs, it truly needs to be an NFT,
Mm-hmm.
and have something on chain where you have it's validated back to the source, the true issuer. If this is a
Right.
MIC point, is it a real MIC point? Is it not? Like, did I
Mm-hmm.
really get these? So that concept that as people go through and they say, this is my identity, this is what defines me. The reason why a Bored Ape goes for hundreds of thousands of dollars is because it is validated and verifiable that this provides access to this community, these parties,
Mm-hmm.
and these things. You can copy the JPEG all day long and you can
Right.
make a new contract and you can put it on there, but it's going to be gated that the second you say, hey, everyone that's getting a free $10,000 piece of land in the new metaverse, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
say that's great that it looks identical to this, but it's not validated and verifiable on chain. And
Yep.
that's the big difference for what you're trying to solve here.
Yeah, to do that, and then to do that kind of in public, right? So I can hold a token, a make point, or an other deed, or a board ape, or whatever that is, and because you've got perfect attribution, right? Perfect digital attribution, both to who issued it. Okay, great. That's the yes. That is the corporation is expecting to issue that, and I know this person owns it, and no one else. Okay, the ability to trust other parties and engage with consumers and other brands, I think is we're scratching the surface of the creativity that we're going to unleash kind of over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and a lot of the people say, oh, these need to be may not understand this. I'll give you a quick use case for why this is so important. So my kids are into Call of Duty right now, and you can't buy these like 2x points where like you play the game but you're earning double the points. They give you some when you first start, and then it kind of goes from there. But I noticed that somehow in their accounts, I try to play with them. I'm very bad. It's absolutely horrible. But they keep getting more of these, and I'm like, because they're leveling up faster than me. They already play more. And I said, where do you guys get these? And they go, oh, and they're buying them online. And people literally will take a picture of the Mountain Dew thing that they pulled off the can and
Right.
they're just Venmoing, $1 or $2 for a picture of this, and then they just enter it into their account online. It's a terrible
Right.
experience for everyone involved, and most importantly for Mountain Dew, that's the one
Yeah.
that's putting out the money and dollars in this, with along with Microsoft for the goal. They're missing all of the just the possibility of understanding what's happening with these, and the
Right.
marketing side of like, there's people that want to use these that are never going to drink Mountain Dew ever in their lives. And so it's great that you have an exclusive, but you've actually now created a conduit of selling these. So would
Right.
they want to lock them down so that it cannot be passed, or do they want to allow it to happen, but the
Right.
monetization has to happen in a clear and defined way, making sure that you're not getting a bad code or anything else and causing more confusion. So there is a lot of use cases for this. But I think the most important thing is that it's a blue sky at this point on how to
It
define
is.
that and what are the metrics around it.
Yeah, these kind of NFT, kind of utility-based NFTs. Like again, I spend a lot of time thinking about that. I think they are fascinating. Three of the pillars we talk a lot about internally at Redeem is convenience, creativity, and control. Right. So convenience for the consumer, it just got to be drop dead simple. It has to be at my fingertips, no cognitive load, easily to access, easy to use. So the convenience has to be number one. And then the creativity, like how do you make these dynamic and personalized and interesting and fun and all those things, but on the backside, also giving the brands control, right? Don't allow them, in the, if you're in the promo coded world, like, Honey or Retail Me Not or Coupon Shark,
Yeah.
like brands don't give you a really good discount because you're VIP and expect it to end up on Honey or Coupon Shark, right? That's
Yeah.
like the Mountain Dew example you just gave. Like that wasn't the intended consequence, but you've got no control.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you can give them the ability to be super creative, dynamic, and personalized while maintaining control with attribution, again, I think people are just beginning to figure out, hey, these NFTs and this idea of digital ownership and kind of the composability of what Web3 brings to the market. Yeah, I think with the very beginning of what's going to be really fun, I think is getting away from, and my eyes glaze over, and when people want to get into tokenomics and how I can do staking and yielding and do all these things, and I'm like, whoa, yeah, it's all true. Like it's not wrong, but you got to
Yeah.
recognize that is less than 1% of the world that really cares about that, right? We don't have like today. I could trade penny stocks today. I don't because it's hard, right? I could engage in complex lending schemes, but I don't think vast majority of people don't want to. They want make it easy, make it more engaging, make it personalized, make me feel special, make me feel like you have an engaged with me all day long.
And I think that, for a lot of people that are that listening to this program right now, and there's going to be some that are degens that absolutely understand every single thing we're saying, and there's going to be
Yep.
others that are curious about this from a business perspective. You kind of need to spend some time, really understanding trading NFTs. Don't and I'll say this is kind of a general thing. Don't worry about buying the expensive ones. I mean, but you can go
Mm-hmm.
out with $100 total, and you can acquire hundreds, literally hundreds of NFTs. And what you'll find through that process of buying, depending if you go on Solana and the transaction is a fraction of a cent, there's a lot of people that give away free. They want the
Mm-hmm.
communities to have them. They want to do these things. But what you find starts to happen is that when you have this dashboard of all these things that you've collected, is that you will start being interacted with in a variety of ways. People will airdrop. I get constantly airdropped random other projects that are related to other projects that I own. I will have offers to purchase things that I own that I don't really care about anymore because they want them, because they want access to that community or that thing that this is token gated for. And so when you have that kind of free market environment, and when you go back to that initial business, let's go back to, Mountain Dew.
Mm-hmm.
And Call of Duty, which is kind of a clearly defined thing we've talked about here at this point. Both of them want client engagement. Both of
Mm-hmm.
them want monetizable actions from a marketing standpoint. Having the ability to understand who is the direct purchaser and who's the end user, and if they're the same or if they're different, is a massive win for any marketing or industry to kind of understand and know. So I'd love to I know that you have in the background the marketing side of this, but I'd love to
Yep.
hear a little bit more expansion around like some of the use cases for the businesses, why this is so much better.
Yeah, I think the brands, absolutely, I say brands, broadly companies, are absolutely. How do we develop a different and more one-to-one type of engagement, kind of first-party relationship? So I don't want to only relate to you via advertisements through Google or through Facebook or through Apple. And so as they are looking to do that, what we're finding a lot is like, hey, I don't want to just give away money. I don't want to just give away margin. how do I create a community, make it interesting to engage with the brand, with an ecosystem, with each other, and create kind of these senses of community. And NFTs are a perfect way for both token gating, right? But then also unlocking other perks, other ways to engage. And so as we've worked with brands, they're trying to think about how do we make this again more interesting, more engaging, not just, hey, here's an extra $5 off.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan at all of the, hey, your 10th cup of coffee is free. Like, so we're working with a bunch of coffee, so really some big coffee brands that are national, and they're trying to think, giving your 10th cup of coffee away for free is just giving away 10% margin, right? So here's a couple of really interesting, very specific use cases that they're trying to tackle. They say, they've got 10 to 15% of their revenue is already on e-commerce. Like, well, that's higher than I would have thought.
Yeah.
That they've really struggled tracking who bought online and who bought in the cafe. And if we could incentivize to use basically kind of their phone number as they're checking out online or in the cafe, they're going to have a much better perspective of who those users are across both of those. Right. So okay, that's some cool things that you could do. And it's other kind of unlocks. It's not just dollars off. It's early access to roasts and other special perks they've got. But then it's like, well, do you know if those people buy a bag of coffee at your local grocery store? Like, no visibility. Like, what if they're Amazon? No visibility. It's like, well, what if you could like let them have like a peel up QR code, and they bought a bag of coffee at the local grocery store, and you scan this QR code and you get a free cup of coffee when you go into the cafe. Right? And they're like, whoa, that would be really powerful. Like, they just scan a QR code on the bag, and really what we're doing is we're putting an NFT in their
Yep.
wallet associated to their phone number. And now when they go into the cafe and give their phone number, like nobody ever just orders a small cup of coffee. Like, they always upgrade, they bring friends. And so they love that concept, but it also is Amazon, right? So as now we're talking to other brands beyond coffee of like, hey, do you want to really understand your customer journey out of band or omni-channel experience, whether they're in your store, whether they're buying through retail, whether they're buying through Amazon, they're buying on e-commerce. If you can use kind of this phone number as a region to engage with your community, these brands and these companies are like, whoa, we could do so much more. We would actually know who are really important. Like, how do we then go back our top 10% of our customer base and really focus on engaging them, because they're going to drive both revenue directly, and they're going to be the fan advocates that we want out talking about our brand. So how do we empower them to do that? And today's tools just doesn't give them that visibility. So we love these brands that cross lots of channels and are trying to find easier ways to communicate with brands. Again, some of the ticketing example I think is fascinating because it happens so often. Ticketing isn't just going to a Taylor Swift concert, right? I have tickets going to my kids' school activities. I've got tickets going to events. It's to the movies. It's all sorts of reasons where it's a token gated, right? So kind of in the Web3 world, there are all sorts of token gated activities that I do every day. The way that we manage, distribute, and trust those is pretty weak. It's honestly, it's not very both convenient nor impactful. So when we can turn those digital into NFTs, not only is it more convenient, but I think that you start giving others, you mentioned kind of brands and companies, the ability to engage with me in different ways, where again, to me, it's just my phone number. But I've got this digital wallet that have all of these signals of things that I like, things that I do. I do think we're going to have to work as a community a lot more around privacy. Like, I don't want my entire life public on chain. Like this, that's not me. I don't think anyone really does. So there is a level of how
Have
do I
you
manage
met
it?
the millennials and the Gen
Well,
Zs?
it's true. I think they don't care. That is true. But how do we give them some level of privacy to be able to say, hey, I want to be able to operate on chain, but there are some things I still want private.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, looking at your website, looking at the deck that you guys sent over, is you're not talking about blockchain technologies.
Mhm.
Your NFT is kind of snuck into a few things here or there, but essentially you're doing what I believe is the correct way to deploy a Web3 technology, which is it just becomes invisible. Web2 is a beautiful UI. It does a lot of things. People understand it. It's device agnostic in a lot of ways. The database of where that runs to, consumers don't care. As long as it works, it's
Right.
easy, and it's easy to be managed by corporations. Done. And I think that this is really, again, a great use case, as well as a good rollout. So I'd love to understand a little bit more around the side of phone numbers, because while
Mhm.
theoretically you can't duplicate those or anything
Mhm.
else, things do happen. So I'd love to
Mhm.
know a little bit around the security of kind of what you guys are doing. We don't have to get technical,
Sure.
but also that side of like, hey, I lost my phone, I don't want that number anymore, and migrating your life which is now related to that phone number
But
over to something else?
yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think again, the vast majority of times we tend to kind of stick with the same phone number. So let's say that, right now it's phone number. I'm switching phones, right? And
Sure.
so again, carriers actually have a signal that you can kind of check to say, hey, is this phone number this number active on a new device? If
Yep.
so, then we're able to do things like it's actually again it's a familiar experience of what sort of things when you do Experian or any of the other services. Hey, have you lived in these addresses or did you have this thing? We can do things, but because you held the wallet, what was in your wallet, right? So you can say, hey, list of here are 5 brands. Which of these did you have in your wallet? Hey, here's a list of 10 concerts. Which one of these did you go to? So it's a really simple, easy step up that we only have to do one time, right? And then
Yeah.
once we haven't implemented this, but even the idea of so when you here's one of the really cool use cases we haven't touched on yet, but I want to kind of highlight.
Yeah,
It is
please.
really powerful. Say that you've got an NFT in your wallet and you want to send it to someone. So if you're using our platform, you could say transfer. It creates a one-time unique URL. It opens up the WhatsApp app or SMS. I type your name in and I hit send to Jay. You now get a message from me saying, hey, Jay, here's this, I would probably wouldn't call it an NFT, whatever this digital thing is. Click on this link and you can claim it. You click on that link. I'm on your phone. It pulls up. I can basically claim. So I just transferred an NFT in the blockchain backend using a WhatsApp. Right. So
Amazing.
super cool. Crazy, right? So the ability to be able to do this. So now if I know that, so say I want to go to a new device, I can say, hey, here are 5 people. Which person have you sent something to?
Yeah.
Right. So really easy kind of knowledge based remembering. In addition to kind of checking with the carrier, is really easy way to kind of transfer that and moving it on. Right. And so there's a bunch of really simple ways of whether it be it's called social recovery. So social recovery is, hey, who have you interacted with in the past that you can
Yeah.
kind of confirm. You need to do another level up where you have to actually text 3 of them and they have to text back, yep, I know this guy and
Yeah,
this is legit.
these are So I appreciate kind of diving into that because a lot of this is relatively standard. The new
Yeah.
concept of login-less login, which is
Hmm.
kind of the terminology here, meaning you go to the website, you go to the app, and there is no password. It's going to either validate through your email or through your phone number, and it
Right.
just boop, code autofills and you log in super quick. Don't have to worry about a password or anything else. As long as you have that email, as long as you have that phone number, this has already been kind of worked out. So I love that
Yeah.
concept around this. Um,
One other thing that's
Scaling.
cool.
Oh, please keep going.
One other thing on the phone number that so I have too many conversations. Sometimes I don't always remember what I've said or not. But one of the unique things about a phone number is we can check if it's a Google Voice number or carrier issued.
Hmm.
So there are no bots, right? Because you can't spin up 1,000 new carrier issued numbers,
Yeah.
right? And so this idea of you actually kind of a Sybil attack, there is no Sybil attack, right? So you're Sybil resistant. You've got a unique person and proof of humanness to a large degree. It's not perfect, but again, from a we talk about super high convenience with moderate security, right? So we're not holding crypto. We are not a bank grade wallet. We're not positioning ourselves as that. This is about high convenience with moderate security. And so a lot of those things kind of unlock when you leverage that phone number. Not only is unique ID, but it's a real person that is not a bot.
Yeah. And I think the most important part about this to remember is, and I have no idea your roadmap and everything else. This is a phase one. This allows
Yeah.
people to get comfortable with where these things are going. And before you get into, maybe those McDonald's points become more valuable in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is a monetizable path that's down the road and you want to send it to a bank grade wallet, or
Mm-hmm.
Toby, you want to make a bank grade version of your wallet to
Sure.
upgrade and everything else. Those are all possible to do. But most importantly, you can have years and gazillions of these points already out in the ecosystem, validated,
Mm-hmm.
verifiable, without having to go back through this process of reissuing them over and over and over again.
Yep.
If I were to just cancel, like, again, I keep using random things, but let's just say I do have a bunch of McDonald's points. If I, just say, I don't want to use this email address anymore, or I just forget about it and go. And then later on, when I recreate that app or whatever the case is, and I use a new email address or whatever the case is, it's not going to remember. But you're right, the
Mm-hmm.
phone numbers generally stay. And so I think that the concept of being able to upgrade down the road and
Mm-hmm.
being, forward looking is one of the most viable reasons for blockchain to be in this space.
It is one of the interesting things that is, again, kind of a future state concept that isn't crazy hard to imagine. So say that I've got a MetaMask wallet or Rainbow or Phantom, and name your traditional kind of bank grade security type of wallet. And I want to say, hey, I want to link this MetaMask wallet to the Redeem platform such that I can use my phone number in other ways. It's kind of like token proof, right? So if you can sign a message in this wallet, and that sends a text message to the device that you want to link, you've actually linked the phone number to this. And so we actually can say, how do you kind of link other Web3 pieces, but to a consumer, still let them have this kind of single point of control being their phone number, while you have these other kind of Web3 wallets that live out there. So we're not sure exactly how that plays out, or, hey, is that really valuable or useful? But we have had that conversation of how do you kind of link other Web3 wallets to the Redeem platform, such that when I scan a QR code at an event, or I want to prove to someone I hold, again, there's I'm trying to blank on the name, where they're essentially protocols to prove that you own tokens without having to kind of show that, like, token proof is one. In some ways we can kind of link the wallets to your phone number
Yeah.
and prove that you have those things. So if you can do a token gated access with your Bored Ape simply by showing your
Yeah.
phone number at a gate.
And I think that calling, and no offense to all the MetaMask and Phantom wallet users, I think they're fabulous, and the development teams are great. It's a very far way to call them bank grade. So I would argue and quite simply say one of the reasons that I'm most interested in what you're building is that the wallet solutions in Web3 are not even close. And so what we would consider to be the secure ones, quite simply, is just what's here today. But I think that the biggest innovations we're going to see is exactly in this asset class and industry that you guys are tackling right now, which is the wallets, and actually thinking about the human nature of these things. And so if these are low value items, and that's exactly what we're saying. We're starting off with the low hanging fruit here. It's okay. Everything's fine. We're going to be good. And if by some chance you lose them, like, life is going to go on, but most importantly, it shouldn't happen. But the concept that you're already forward thinking of, like, hey, like, I look at Fireblocks as being bank grade, like multiple levels of verification. It's $60,000 a year right now. So it's like the Indy car and the exotic car of the world, but that cost is going to come down. Those innovations are going to come down. So when that's ready, people adopt it. You can absolutely, they have all the APIs, you can pipe those things right in. But the concepts that even there may be a competitor or another one of somebody that, like you, that is doing points, but outside your ecosystem, that you have the way to pipe them in if they choose down the road to use as your provider, or that you just say, we're partnering now with Visa, and now you have access to more things. And that's why blockchain is so powerful, is it's not an API thing where you got to go and like, oh, well, you made them this way, we made them this way, now we got to go make a whole new thing because they can't talk together. They always will talk.
Yeah, we have a standards based open ecosystem, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of open source technology, standards based. If you were to try to go back and say force a standards based open source framework on the world, no way. But when you have this bottoms up innovation, and you let people be creative, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we have these things called ERC-721 tokens that happen to run on any wallet, and you have these open. I mean, just so cool when kind of open communities can kind of innovate and be modular, be composable, be dynamic.
I absolutely love it. Love it. Toby, amazing technology. And I'm so excited for what you guys have built, how you've built it, and kind of the really, you've got a massive blue sky on this, because once you have a wallet, and if you can get user adoption, which I believe that you understand how to do so, then it becomes just onboarding companies and getting, a lot of them already have existing NFT projects. They've already played with these things, but they don't go anywhere. They don't do anything, and they have no intrinsic values to be sold on OpenSea or anything else, but they do have value to go back to that retailer or back to that brand in some way, and really derive value where there is none today. That being said, and hearing about kind of your career overall, like how many times you've kind of foreshadowed seeing that here's a list of kind of a new technology that helps a human out, helps a brand out, helps a company out, and then kind of going out a little further, skating to where the puck's going, and not kind of just saying, here's what I can do today, is exactly what you've done. So just love to hear for the audience, any thoughts you have on just kind of where you see everything going, or where, people should have the mind space to innovate currently in Web3.
No, I appreciate the question, Jay. When I kind of, again, think further out and try to talk with folks and say, hey guys, this is the frame that you need to be viewing the world, kind of the mindset. It really is, NFTs not as things that you buy and sell, but digital, again, credential certificates, things that represent companies or people that unlock new capabilities, right? When we have trust that can span companies, span individuals, that again is irrefutable, the provenance, the attribution inside of there. I mean, again, NFTs, smart contracts, again, not as things you want to buy and sell, not as collectibles. Okay, that's a use case, sure, those are there, but NFTs that can give me an attribute, that can be a key, a token, a badge, a certificate, a credential. There's so many things I think that we can unlock and do. Again, then building that on blockchain, because again, if you can do it in a silo, go do it in a silo, fine. But when you think about building in the open environment, when other people can build on what you've done and it becomes composable, you end up with brand new, again, use cases, interactions, and becomes a very much a bottoms up type of solution. That I think Web3 is a framework that we can build within. The other is like stop selling the technology. Like when we had Web2 and cloud based, like when it's like, come use my new serverless app, it runs on mobile, and like we didn't talk about all the technology. It's like, what does it do for me? Like what can I do that's easier, better? So focus on really the usability, the benefit. Go solve a hard problem. Going to use some of this new technology, especially that lives in a purely digital construct, whether that's decentralized or Web3 or simply Web2 digital, and do something unique and different in an open environment, and be composable and curious.
I love that. And, so many people, they focus, I mean, they lead their pitch with the chain, they lead their pitch with the technology. And then by the time you get to what the product is, everyone's eyes have glazed over because nobody cares. And while we care, because we're the geeks that are in the space, the reality is when you visit a website, no one says, is this on, Amazon S3 or Microsoft Azure or running on a server in your,
or on Ethereum or on Solana. Like they don't care.
It just, does it work? And does it scale? And so I love the concept. I love that thought. And so Toby, I really appreciate you coming by today. And I know you have a ton of things that you guys are also working on in addition to this. But for yWhales, this was Toby with Redeem. And really, where's the best way for people to kind of find out more or get involved?
Yeah, you can check us out on redeem.xyz. I'm Tobias Rush at Twitter. I'm actually Tobias Rush on almost all the various platforms. But yeah, Tobias Rush at Twitter, or toby.rush at redeem.xyz.
Love it. Love it. All right, yWhales, we'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.